Okay, so hello guys, and welcome back to this week's live EllAstrology stream. So this week I'm going to be talking about two things, and I'll be covering each sign in the zodiac. The first thing I'm going to be talking about is how to recognize the different signs in the zodiac, and the other thing I'm going to talk about is just a little lesson for each sign, just a little thing to maybe, brighten everybody's spirits, and just a little something that everybody needs to hear about their sign. Okay, so for this video, you're not really going to have to know much about your natal chart. You just need to know your sun sign. So I'm sure most of you know your sun sign, so it'll be quite easy to listen to. So the first sign I'm going to get into is Aries. Now, the easiest way to recognize an Aries person is that they're usually very active people. They're quite sporty. These people are usually sport team players. They usually go to the gym a lot, or they're even quite into their like wild sports, like even things like hunting, rock climbing, water sports, anything like that. But they have lots of energy inside them, so they have to be quite active all the time. They have to find a quite intense way to release all this energy inside them. So if you know a person who's quite active, quite sporty, that kind of thing, or they're just into, lots of intense things like that, it could be an Aries. Another interesting thing I also know about Aries people is that they like, a lot of them actually have some kind of like beauty spots or moles somewhere on their face or their neck. That's quite a common trait about them as well. Okay, so the next sign I'm going to go into is Taurus. So the way that you can recognize a Taurus person is they're usually very creative and they're quite artistic. They're usually quite a quiet person. They're very, very stable, but I find that all the Taurus people I know, they're very creative. They love to paint. They love to make like clothing, jewelry, any kind of creative thing that they can get involved with. That will definitely be a Taurus person. They're also very imaginative people, so they enjoy to get involved with gaming. I notice a lot of Taurus guys are into the gaming because they really enjoy like the fantasy kind of aspect of life and that kind of thing. So yeah, if you know a person who's just into like, fantasy stories and who's just very creative and that kind of thing, that could definitely be a Taurus person. So the next one I'm going to talk about is Gemini. Now, Gemini people, they definitely like to talk a lot. They always have lots of ideas and they tend to talk about like all different kinds of topics all the time. So if you know a person who's always talking about all the different news events that's going on in the world at the moment, or who's even just talking about all the social things that's going on in a social group, it could most likely be a Gemini. Gemini people, they're also all over the place, I've noticed. They can be here the 1 minute and then there the next minute. So if you also notice like a person who can't really sit still and they're just like all over and just getting involved with everything, that could also definitely be a Gemini person. So then I'm going to go on to Cancer. I don't know if there's any Cancers out there. So Cancer people, they tend to be very emotional people. So if you know a person who kind of just reacts to situations a bit more emotionally than other people, they're a little bit more sensitive. You can't really, be as forward and as stern with these people. Otherwise, they get quite, reclusive and they tend to shut down and just become very emotional and that kind of thing. These people are usually Cancer people because they experience lots of emotions, and I'll go into detail on Cancer maybe into another on another live stream. But yeah, it's definitely a very special sign because they tend to feel a lot of things. And if you know any Cancer people, then you'll probably also notice they're just quite emotional, a lot more than most people that are out there. Okay. So then the next sign I'm going to go on to is Leo. Okay. So Leo people are usually quite extravagant people. They love to talk. They love to get to know other people. They also usually love to be the center of attention. But by center of attention, I don't really mean that like in a way where they want everybody's attention. I was actually making a Leo video the other day where I was explaining how a Leo is very representative of a lion and a pride of lions, and how you will get, you know, like the main lion in this pride, and this lion will, you know, fight for his pride. He'll look for food for his pride. He'll provide for them, and he'll love them, and he'll be there for them no matter what. Now, a Leo person can be seen a lot like that. And when they're around their people, they're really proud to be around them. And they're really proud to, you know, have these friends. And they're just very proud people, which is quite amazing. They're usually really cool people to be around. They're very generous, they're very loving, and they're just very, very warm people. Another interesting thing about Leos is I've noticed they've usually got like, usually lots of hair, like almost like a lion's mane, or they'll usually have quite an interesting out there hairstyle. So you can usually identify a person by their hairstyle. They usually have a very interesting or very beautiful hairstyle, and that will usually be a Leo person. Yeah, guys, Leos are really awesome. Like, if you get to know them, you know, then you can really see they shine a lot, and they can really just be super generous to the people that they actually know. And they're just very, very proud, and they can love you a lot, and they really like to show other people how much, you know, they love you and how proud they are. And also I find that they work really hard, and they're very determined people, and when they reach their goals, they're also very, very proud of those goals, you know, and that's just really, really awesome. They also have like really good attitudes a lot of the time. I just say rather do not, you know, like be rude to a Leo or ignore them, because they usually don't deserve that. You know, they usually have done quite a bit for the people around them and that kind of thing. Okay, cool. So the next one I'm going to talk about is Virgo. So Virgo people are very interesting people. So they, hi guys. Hi Karen, thanks for joining us. Okay, cool. So Virgo people are very interesting people. I've noticed Virgo people are quite anxious people. They like to suss a situation out first. They don't like their routines and their habits being interrupted. So a very good way to see usually if someone is a Virgo is to ask them to do something that night. And they'll instantly be like, oh my goodness, no, like I already have these and these plans in place. Like I cannot, my life can't be disrupted so much, you know. They usually stick to, you know, their routine quite a bit. And as soon as you try and change their routine or interrupt their routine, they get really, really upset and anxious. And yeah, it's just a really interesting thing. And Virgos, they also tend to just work really hard, and they love to work. I think that Virgo people, when they're not working, they feel quite anxious. So they actually prefer to work, which is quite interesting. But yeah, Virgo people are definitely some of the most hardest working people that you can find out there. And yeah, they're also just like quite an interesting sign to be living under, I think. So the next sign I'm going to talk about is Libra. Now, one way I have noticed that you can definitely recognize a Libra in the room is look for the person that is always smiling. Now, a Libra person, they love to externalize, you know, this feeling of peace, harmony, and beauty, and they really like to show that to the people around them. So they can be very beautiful people. They're always smiling. They're always quite peaceful. They also tend to be very popular people because they like to have pleasant interactions with the people around them. So if you know a person who's usually, you know, quite a bubbly person, they, you know, easy to get along with, and they just have like quite a positive kind of disposition about them, that will most likely be a Libra. Now, Libra people don't like to show people, you know, their bad side or what's wrong with them. So it's very rare that you will see, you know, what's wrong with a Libra if they're going through something emotionally, or just if there's like something bad on their mind, they try and hide that from the people around them. So that's why I say Libras, they just tend to come across as just these very happy, cheerful, peaceful individuals. But that's not always the case. Just always know that they also go through things just like everybody else like us do, and they're not completely perfect. The next sign I'm going to be talking about is Scorpio. Now, a lot of people always ask me about Scorpio. Now, the way that you can recognize a Scorpio is they're usually people that come across as, you know, very emotionally controlled, like, you know, they've got everything together and they don't really like to show their emotion at all, but they've got so much going on inside them. They're usually very, very deep, deep people. Scorpio people, they will express themselves through quite interesting ways. I know a lot of Scorpio people that are into things like, you know, tattoos. I also know a lot of Scorpios that are into poetry, and they're into, you know, things like opera. They like really refined, deep ways of expressing themselves. They also tend to have, you know, quite a vintage sense of style, and their home will be very like almost like old school and vintage. That kind of goes along with, you know, just their love for, you know, kind of more old school, you know, things, and also just like the deeper side of things. So if you know any people that are into really deep stuff, like, you know, they could even be into things like conspiracy theories, they could have some interesting religions, or they could be into things like the paranormal or even occult or any like, you know, out there, hidden, deep things. These people are most likely Scorpio people because, you know, they love to like delve into the unknown and that the things that nobody knows about. Yeah, and they also like their rock music, I've noticed. Definitely. Okay. Okay, great. So Sagittarius is the next one. So Sagittarian people can be recognized through their honesty. They're usually the kind of person that will, you know, tell you if you're wearing like a ridiculous outfit or something. They'll say to you, "What are you wearing? You look ridiculous." You know, they're very, very honest people. They're very straightforward people. They don't like to sugarcoat things, and they'll literally just tell it like it is. So if you know a person like that who's just very blunt, who's just very straightforward, that will be a Sagittarian. And Sagittarians, they also tend to be very adventurous. So they like to find out, you know, the world. Now, a lot of that has to do with, you know, their habits towards, you know, the truth and towards honesty. It's because they really want to see the world for what it is, and they really want to experience the world for what it is. So you'll find a lot of Sagittarius people, they like to travel, they like to go to different kinds of, you know, political kind of situations and just like different countries and experience them and that kind of thing, because they really just like knowing things for what they are, and they don't listen to other people's opinions very easily. They're the kind of people that are more like they will find out for themselves. And I also know Sagittarians tend to be very skeptical, so it's very known that they also don't believe in astrology. There are a few that do, but like I said, they don't just believe anything that anyone says to them, and they tend to prefer to find it out for themselves. So when it comes to astrology, they can also be quite skeptical. So the next one I'm going to be talking about is Capricorn. Now, Capricorn people, they are known to be very hardworking people. They really like to climb the social ladder. So if you know a person who, you know, they work really hard, they have the goals in mind, and they're really, you know, implementing these goals in their life, and they're going towards it like headstrong, that will usually be known as a Capricorn person. They know exactly who they need to get involved with to, you know, reach their goals. They know exactly what they need to do, where they need to go. They usually have their goals completely structured out and completely planned out in front of them, and they will basically, you know, do each thing that is required to reach the ultimate goal. And yeah, these people, like I said, they climb the social ladder and they really make a success out of themselves because they're very headstrong and they know exactly what they need to do. Now, the way to recognize them is usually people that are quite successful when they're young or even when they're old. I know Capricorn people tend to become CEOs very, very quickly, early in life, that kind of thing, because they're very, very, you know, determined, and they just know exactly how to get there. Okay, cool. So the next sign is going to be Aquarius. Now, the way that you can notice an Aquarius is the person that is literally getting along with every single person in the room. They are everybody's best friend. They want to get to know everybody, and they're a massive socialite, and they literally take in everybody's, you know, story, everybody's point of view. An Aquarius doesn't like to choose sides. They like to listen to both sides. They like to consider both sides. And even then, you know, they won't make up their mind, and they'll still respect, you know, both sides of a situation. And yeah, these people, they're just really cool people. They tend to be quite peaceful people and really sociable people and just fun people to be around. Okay, great. And then the last one I'm going to do is Pisces. Now, Pisces people are very interesting people. So this sign is known to be quite a wise sign. They say that Pisces people are old souls. Reason for that is when you look at astrology, it all works basically in a life cycle. So it starts at Aries and it goes all the way through to Pisces, and each sign is basically a cycle of life, and each sign has its lesson that it has to experience. Now, basically, when you go from Aries through to Pisces, Aries would be the baby, and Pisces would basically be the soul that has already left the body. So Pisces is said to have experienced all the lessons of all the signs. They are said to, you know, they know everything that everybody else, you know, still needs to learn because they've already experienced that, because they're quite old, wise souls. So Pisces people, I've noticed they're just, you know, quite peaceful people as well. They're not very argumentative. They get along with everybody as well. And they can also tend to be quite like dreamy like people. They have a very out of this world kind of nature to them, which I find very, very interesting. So if you know any people that just kind of seem like they're not from here and that their head's just like, you know, somewhere else, it's definitely a Pisces, because yeah, they're very, very evolved people and they're just very interesting people. Because like I said, they're old souls and they've experienced all the lives most of us probably still have to.